We're going to talk today about our Pulse dashboard supply chain, and just a few observations. There's no one way to approach this subject, and what we observe with working with our customers is that each customer approaches things differently. So today what we're going to do is show you kind of the whole waterfront of what is available, and then you can decide which areas, what reports would work well for you. So again, there's lots of ways to approach the supply chain management. Each company has a different approach, and today we're going to show you the approach used by a lot of companies, and then you can decide from there. So if you're new to our company or our Pulse dashboard software, this is my picture here on the shop floor at one of our metal stamping companies. We have been in business forever. We have developed an expertise, an ERP expertise for manufacturing and for distribution. We've been in business forever. We've worked with Macola software forever. We're located in Cincinnati. And what we do, one of our core competencies is to extract data out of the Macola database to help you make faster and better decisions. Okay. So one of the things we're going to talk about today is the need for a written inventory policy. And this is something that, it's really going to define and needs to be in writing because it needs to be shared among everybody. The basic idea is a lot of times it's easy to figure out that you need to order something because you have people waiting, but how much to order? There's different rules. Am I going to order a 6-month supply? Am I going to order a 3-month supply? Am I going to order? There's just different rules. So we're not going to dwell on this very much, but there is a need out there. Each company on the audience today needs to have this in writing because this will become a stumbling block or a point of disagreement, especially on how much are we going to order. And then, and one of the other areas down here is what are we going to include a safety stock or not? Well, what is a safety stock and how would that help? So these are all questions that won't be answered today, but are something that you need to think about. Okay, so this is the end of our little PowerPoint. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the basics. And the idea is we're not going to cover sales and marketing today. We're not going to cover the executive module. We're not going to cover a lot of things. We're going to focus strictly on supply chain. And to get everybody onto the basics, I just want to make sure that everybody knows what we've done with the software. And the idea being that real time, we are reading the Macola database. Okay, well, that's nice. But the Macola database doesn't include everything that you need in order to manage your inventory. So this screen that I'm showing you here, all of these fields that are in the cream color are fields that we've added. So in other words, item number, description, whether it's purchased or manufacturing, the quantity on order, quantity allocated. These are all real-time information coming directly out of the Macola database. But there's a need for additional information. There's a need for average usage, a trend analysis, and you can show this 3, 6, and 12-month average usage, or you could replace this with a formula that would show you is the usage going up or down. So this is extremely important. Months of inventory on hand, not in Macola. And so just a little secret, once a day, all of this information, the cream color is refreshed, is recalculated and available for you. So if we go over to this area, date of last usage, date of last inventory activity, date of last purchase. So let me come back to this, date of last usage. Well, what's usage mean? Well, everybody received a flyer that I just sent you, a white paper on, it's called our Pulse definitions document. And in it, it explains the definition for all of these. So as a little bit of background, we hired my Apex coach to be the person to sign off. Okay, well, first of all, what's the definition of usage? Well, that's coming directly out of the Apex dictionary. And you can refer to that. So the idea was that he helped us make sure that usage, activity, purchase, some of these are self-explanatory. Inventory turns is something else that we're calculating that's coming out. Okay, so And for those of you who may be new, this is a standard report. And if you want to add or adjust, you can drag these columns off of here. If there's a field that you want to have on here that you're not seeing, this is our column chooser. I'm going to do this again. I'm going to click here on this grid. And what we've done is we've converted all the fields in Macola to business English. So you don't need to know what file or table it's coming from. You don't need to know the technical name. If you are technical, then what you can do is you can hover over the item and it'll tell you what the technical name is. And then you can just bring that onto the report. Okay. There's a brand new field that we've just added in the past month, and that is called the gross demand. Okay, well, what does gross demand mean? You know, we're typically working with net demand, so this is really gross. It should be called gross customer demand. So what it means is that we've taken all of the products that are on order with your customers. These are all customer orders. We've taken all of those products. We've exploded the bill of material for each one of those products all the way down to the 11th level. And then we've combined it together and we've added it up. So in other words, this item that we have here, this bushing, is needed. We need 63,000 of them among all of our customer orders. So this is a brand new field called gross demand quantity. And you may have to upgrade to the latest or update to the latest version of the dashboard to get that. But that's a brand new field that we're adding that is important to some companies. Okay. So this is what we have. This is our inventory, the inventory metrics. This is called the inventory status report. Now, we also have the ability to calculate the inventory classes. So the idea would be we're using traditional 80, 15, and 5 APIX categories. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, okay, for those of you who are using this, you have to calculate inventory classes separately for manufactured items versus purchased. If you combine them together, it's sort of meaningless. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select purchased. I'm going to say retrieve. And what this software is doing is it's writing back, once it calculates, it's going to write back. So for example, it's saying that if we look down here, looks like I updated these, so we ruined some of this data, but it's showing you your current class, ABC class, and then it's showing you what your suggested class is. So and you can override this if you don't want this, but the idea being that you need to know what your classes are to be a better focus on managing your inventory. So in other words, your C items are not, which typically are going to be fasteners, you're not going to be focusing a lot of attention on that. Let Fastenal handle that, and you're focusing on your A items. Okay, so this is ABC classes, and when you press this button here, it will push the new class out into your item master. So again, we're going over the basics of how to better manage this. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at, and some people in the audience may say, oh gosh, you know, this is real elementary stuff. I don't need to worry about this. Okay, so we're going to look at purchase orders scheduled to be received, and we're going to look at customer orders scheduled to be received. So let's take a look at this for a moment. This is purchase orders scheduled to be received, and I have a request date here that's 3 years old. And it's like, well, wait a minute now. Do you really think that the vendor is sitting there on the dock just waiting to ship this product to you, and they're working every single day? No, this probably got forgotten. You may think this is on order, but it is not on order. Now, because the MRP, the supply chain management, is assuming that this item is coming in, it's past due, means it's going to arrive any minute, and we know that that is not the case. So the idea being that these dates, and we're going to look at customer orders and open production orders in a minute, but these dates have to be accurate. So what did we do? in dashboard, because to change this date in Macola is tedious or sometimes impossible. So if you called the vendor and renegotiated this date, you can right click, you can go to Macola process, and you can change this date. And I'm doing this wrong. I have to put on the purchase order, and then I edit the purchase order, and here I can change these dates. So for those of you who aren't familiar that we're doing this now, you typically can right click on a production order, on a customer order, and a purchase order, and change the dates. So there's really, so in other words, I'm going to be on the bandwagon here. I'm going to be up and saying these have to be dead accurate to manage your supply chain. These dates have to be dead accurate, and they have to be reasonable. We can't have any that are hanging out there for some time. I'm going to look at the same thing for production orders. I have a schedule. The idea being that I have to have. I'm not going to go into these. We need to have a supply chain that works. We have to have good dates for purchase orders, good dates for customer orders, realistic dates for customer orders, and the same thing for production orders. So when it comes to customer orders, sometimes people will say, well, we just put in today's date for the request date or the promise date, or we make it a week from now, or we just go with what the customer says, requests. Well, the items have different lead times, so you can't just say, well, everything has 2 weeks or so on. So, but the idea being, in order to make this work, I think we've dwelled on this long, those due dates, whatever you're using, whether you're using promise date or you're using request date, that has to be correct. And for those of you who aren't familiar with how these dates work, is you go into the MRP setup, and the MRP setup is saying that for purchase orders, we're going to, what are we going to rely on? In my case, we're going to rely on the promise date. For customer orders, we're going to rely on the promise date. For shop orders, we're going to, well, that's a little different story there. And do we want to include all orders or just orders that have been released? So this is not everybody can get to this, but this is a key setup, an extremely important setup. And then also, when we talk about forecasting, we're looking 12 weeks into the future, and this could be 12 weeks into the future, it could be 24 weeks into the future. So again, I'm going up to administration, going up to pulse settings, and I'm going to MRP. Okay. So we've talked about, I have a little checklist here that we're working on. Again, production orders, and in order to change that date, you have to right click on either the customer order date, the purchase order date, or the production order date. Okay. So just remember that right click. There's another feature here that you may not be, some of our customers have great difficulty in closing purchase orders on time. So in other words, we're not backflushing on a timely basis. If you're completing a production order this afternoon, it needs to be closed this afternoon. Or if you're in shop floor, that needs to be reported, because you want it to backflush. You want that on-hand quantity and the allocated quantity to be perfect. So here's another case. Right click on in this case, this is a pop order. So what can we do with this? The majority of Macola people are on pop. This allows you to change the due date, and oh wow, I can report production. I can complete the order. I can change the captured bill of material, and I can report lot numbers and serial numbers as well. So not that you're going to use this all day long, but this gives you this kind of flexibility. So we can change the due date, we can change the captured bill, and we can report production, including the lot numbers and serial numbers if that's what you're using. Okay, so
Mike, we have
we're
a question from earlier. If this is a
sure,
good time.
let's go ahead.
Okay.
Yep, good time.
So from earlier on, question was, does the gross demand field include forecast orders as well?
No, it doesn't. We have some that do. That's another data field, but this is just to give you a better feel for what the demand looks like for customer orders. So this is in addition to what we are. We'll come to that when we're looking at our MRP detail shortly. Any other questions, Bart?
No, not at the moment, but if anyone does have a question, just open up the questions tab and feel free to type one in there and we'll ask it at the next appropriate time.
Okay. So what we're going to talk about now is we're going to pinpoint shortages. In other words, we need a way to very quickly and very easily determine customer order shortages. In other words, we promised the customer we would ship this product on this date and this quantity. Can we make that date or not? And then the other side of it is we have production orders out there that are supporting the sales effort. Are those going to be completed on time and so on? So this is coming out of customer service. This is the customer order shortages, not to be confused with production order shortages. We're going to come back to that in a minute. So what we do here, so this is called customer order shortages by item, and you can establish the number of days. So in this case, I'm going to go out 15 days. I want to see over the next 15 days, am I going to be able to ship these products based on their availability 15 days from now? That would be a purchase order. If it's a purchase item, a purchase order due to be arriving in the next 15 days, or a production order, or just simply, do I have enough on hand right now? So what that did then, when I clicked OK, that is doing a full MRP regen. And we'll have to let this come back in a second. Now, something else that happens sometimes is you'll see that the software will kind of slow down for a minute. And there's rules in the software that if you haven't touched any of the screens in 30 minutes, it's going to refresh things for you. So that's what it's waiting on right now. So it's doing a full MRP regen. And we'll wait for this to come back. Okay, so what this is doing is telling us that we have 29 items. These are 29 finished good items that we will not be able to ship on time over the next 15 days. So this is telling us our earliest replenishment date. This is our quantity on hand, quantity allocated. This is what we have 21 orders that need this, and then showing us our earliest shortage date. We could pull this over here if we wanted to. So let's drill down and see this. Okay, so we have, this is backwards here, just a second. Yep, I'm sorry, I didn't have that sorted right. Okay, so this is saying that we have these 3 customer orders. Green is good, red's not good. This is saying that we have 3 customer orders that we are going to be able to ship on time. We now have a replenishment that's coming in, but that replenishment is not sufficient for these 6 orders or 7 orders. We have another replenishment that's coming in, still not enough. We have another replenishment coming in, still not enough. So we're in trouble on this. We have production orders, but they're not of a sufficient quantity. So let's take a look at another one. And what we're doing is, we're supposed to ship, yeah, I had the sorting incorrect, sorry. This is, we're looking at this and sorting it by demand replenishment date. So these are demand dates these are more demand dates, these are replenishment dates. So in this particular case, we have 3 replenishment orders that are out there, but they're too late. If you look at this real closely, this demo data is not the greatest. We needed this on 7/21, on July 21, but it's not scheduled to be replenished until June of 2022. So let's take another look at another one here, just these at random. Okay, here's one where we have a replenishment, but we needed it early. It's coming in on the 14th, and we needed it. I still don't have this. And my dates aren't quite right here. So this is coming in on the 14th, and we needed this on the 15th. So I think what's happening here is this is coming in correctly, but we're going to have a -1. So it's an insufficient quantity to meet this. Okay, so this is customer orders. And then let's look at production orders. You know, it's the same deal. You can go to the setup and you can decide whether you want to have 5 days, 15 days, and then these are all the items that are short. So in this case, over the next, what do we have here? The next 5 days, we have 38 items that are preventing us from completing our production on time and thus possibly shipping on time. So it's the same deal here. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Here we have a forecast that's coming in. Let me make sure that we have this sorted correctly. Yep, here we are. So this is the first time that we're seeing this forecast. So we have the ability to import a forecast. And let me show you real fast where that happens. That happens in sales and marketing. There's all kinds of sales and marketing budgeting by customer, but the one that you need for MRP forecasting is this one that says item and location entry. So again, we saw a situation there where we are including a forecast. And so the forecast is typically going to be at the finished good level, and then what our software is going to do is explode that down to the components. Okay, so now we've gone through some of the basics, and now we're starting to talk about pinpointing shortages. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about that. And the idea is, well, what are we going to do with those shortages? We know we have to order. Well, how much are we going to order? This is where and I sent a copy of, okay, I sent a copy to everybody of the developing a written inventory policy. And I have to stress written, and you might think that's kind of hokey. Well, we know about that. We don't need to have it in writing. But how do we communicate to everybody in the company the same message? You know, in other words, if I'm a production control person, how do I know what the rules are for ordering purchased items? In other words, I have to have a confidence that the people in purchasing are ordering on my behalf. So this gives you some examples that you can look at, some real life examples of. It's easy to determine when to order. What's hard to determine is how much to order. Do we order for just the next period? Do we order just for the next 20 days? Do we order for our lead time? Do we order for, in other words, one of the comments that I make a little bit facetious may be that the easiest way to be successful in purchasing is to order too much. Well, eventually that catches up with you. In other words, management isn't going to just hand over a couple $1 million so that we can never run out. You may not have the money, you may not have the space, you may not be able to even convince the vendor. The way the lead times are, the way shortages are going is people who are trying to hog the supply chain, they're not getting what they want. So you order 1,000, you may only get 200. And so anyway, we all know what's going on there. So the inventory policy, written inventory policy, is important. Something that we have in inventory that may help here is we have a program. This is our recalc program. This is pushing back data into Macola. So for those of you who are working off of a reorder level, in other words, you're not working off of an MRP level, you're working off of a reorder level. Well, those reorder levels are dependent on the lead time and usage. So in other words, the day that you set that reorder level, it probably was obsolete. So this allows you to establish the rules and to, telling you here what your current min is and what the new min should be. The same thing for the max, the same thing for the safety stock. So this is using your rules, and then we're updating it, we're pushing that back, and then the same thing for the lead times, for the purchase order lead times. So we have tools here that can help you accommodate the changes in the supply chain. Okay, so the next thing that happens is you're digesting this stuff here. Now we are adding a forecast in here, and it's like, woo, where did this information come from? This is crazy. This cannot be right. I've never seen this before, because you've never used a forecast before. How do I know that this is right? And so this is now the next subject. It's okay. What we are telling you is correct. If you're believing it or not is the hangup. In other words, the customer calls us and we say, well, we know the software is working. And they saying, I swear this isn't right. We've never had to order this kind of level before. We've never had, and that's because maybe you didn't have a forecast before. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus here on a couple things here. We're going to focus on this report called the MRP detail report. And this is taking our Pulse dashboard data and it's telling you what are the layers of demand and replenishment for that item. So here's this grommet. We have a production demand. We have a forecast, and you may say, well, I didn't know that, the forecast was going to include grommets. That's pretty low level. Well, it does. It explodes it all the way down. So you may say, well, I in my calculation, I assumed there was no demand from a forecast. So there's a learning process, there's an acceptance process, and this is what we see as the toughest area in getting this to work, is getting everybody to give up their old ways of, well, I just order 200 every time, or I just order for 30 days every time. Getting away from that and starting to rely on the data. So throughout this, we're going to have plenty of, I'll just give you an example here. Let's take a look at, we'll just look at all the forecasts. So here they are. And I can tell you there's no way in your head to be able to explode the bill of material down for all the orders out there, net the whole thing out, and because this forecast is consuming, it's being consumed, and then netting out the forecast and saying, that 256 is right. There's absolutely no way a human can do that. So you have to start in a process of understanding the layers here and understanding and I didn't do that right. Get rid of this. Okay. So this is the first area that we have that will give you this information. Now, if you're using Macola's MRP, so if you're using Macola's MRP, we have an answer for that also, and that's what's called our MRP action report. And instead, these are the layers. We'll go back here. These are the MRP layers. And remember, and look, this is being sorted by date, demand replenishment date. And then it's telling you what your net on hand is going to be, your new on hand quantity, like we're going negative. That's why it's wanting you to order. If you're using Macola's MRP, we have this report. This is our MRP action report. It's not part of dashboard. It's part of it's a crystal report, but it reads the Macola data, not the Pulse dashboard data. So you can see, let's expand this a little bit. Let's take a look at this second item, this compound. So this is saying that there's an MRP order out there. It's looking at it by date. That may be, let's look at this one here. It's saying that we're starting off with 700. We have a demand for 30. We have a PO replenishment for 30. That's going to give us 700. In the week of 522, there's no activity. In the week of 529, we have an MRP order, number 18, that's requiring 18,164. All of a sudden, we are in deep trouble because we don't have this on order. We don't even have what our lead time is up here, so we can't. We have failed to keep our Macola data up to date. We have no lead time. Let's take a look at another one right down here. You know, it's the same routine. We start off with 847. We need 15 in week 1. We need 15. We need 15. Gives us 817. And then it just goes. The ending balance becomes the beginning balance. And I know some of the people on our audience today are using this report. If any of you who are using this have trouble where Crystal crashes, there's a bug in Crystal that sometimes affects this, and we have a new version of the MRP action report that avoids that problem. Okay. So Bart, I see the question thing up there. Do you have anybody have any questions that you should answer? We would like to answer right now.
Yeah, again, feel free to type it in the questions section. But one question is, Mike, how long for all of this to be installed, implemented, trained, and ready to be used?
Oh, that's an easy one to answer. 2 hours to install it, 2 hours to have it running with your data, and then weeks to get this data cleaned up. In other words, if we go back to this, my example of the purchasing here, I know I'm on a little bandwagon here, but it's like these orders have been hanging out there for 4 years. So they're not going to get themselves corrected in the next 5 days. We have production orders that are allocating components that have been open for 3 years. You know, so there's going to be a big debate about whether those orders are really real. If well, we don't need this item anymore because we don't use this item anymore. Well, if that's the case, we need to get rid of it. So to implement our dashboard software literally is a 90-minute installation. In our case, we would go up here to this MRP setup. This has to be discussed. And at that point, it's reading your data real time, and you're ready to go. So the training, the acceptance is the toughest part. We're working with a customer now where they acquired another company. They increased their sales substantially, and the buyers and planners want to continue to buy as if it was a $20 million company, when now it's a $50 million company. So, and it's just taking a lot of time to gain acceptance. So that's what our example is. So we can get you going, pinpoint what's going on. You can get this running immediately in less than a half day, but the rest of it is the tougher part. And it takes top-level management acceptance, top-level management support to sort of crack the whip and make sure, get everybody to commit to cleaning up their data. So did I answer that whole question, Bart?
Yes, I believe so. There's one more question then. A follow-up is, how about ongoing support as the software is being used? Or is there a team available?
Yeah, excellent question. We have a dedicated support desk, and I'll come back to that in a second. So we provide unlimited phone support, unlimited email support, unlimited training, unlimited what we call, jovially, we call it retraining. Um, and so Tom Schindler, who is our newest support person, he came from a Microsoft manufacturing environment. I think they manufactured lotions in South Florida. So he is an MRP. He's taken all of his Microsoft GP experience and moved that over to Macola. So in addition to that, the person who handles our day-to-day support for Macola is APIC certified. He used to work at Macola on the support desk for MRP. I'm a supply chain MRP expert. We have an accounting, if the dollars don't come out right, we have a CPA on our staff. So we're very well equipped. Like if our support person can't handle it, then it gets forwarded to others. So I think we have the best support. We not only know manufacturing, we know the product, we know Macola, and so questions do not linger. But it does depend on having squeaky clean data. So I can't stress that enough. But that's been our history of working with this. Anything I forgot to mention there, Bart?
Nope, that was great.
Okay, so I'm in the MRP module, and again, today's presentation was to show you a variety of ways. There's no one right way. There's no one way that every company is going to do things. You have different needs. We have as I look down the attendance list today, we have people who are hardcore plastic, electronic, metal, tons of parts, supply chain issues galore. And then we have other people who are in the food area, and it has different, different supply chain needs. So let's talk about a few things that might be helpful. I'm in the MRP module, and it says shortages by production order that shows all the components. So here we are. This is a shop order. Yeah, it's right here. This is a shop order here, 201-389, and it's showing you all of the components. Now, we have two versions of this. We have a version that just shows you shortages, because now the hat I'm wearing right now is I'm production control. Can I make this? I have this production order scheduled. I want to release the order today. Before I go picking, do I have all the items? And if I don't have the items, am I in trouble? What kind of trouble am I in? So this is these are all the components. So the drill down here is showing me purchase orders scheduled to be received. So let's look at, we can look at this here. Okay, so this poly SH, whatever this is, in other words, I have this on order. So I'm the production control. I'm looking down here. I know I have a shortage. Do I have the purchased item? Do I have that replenishment on order? Yes or no? And then I want to see how much, because I only have one. I need three. So this is showing me here that I have a production order. I know up here it's not sufficient, and it's scheduled to come in on July 21st. Now, the problem with this is that there could be 25 other production orders that need this as well. But it doesn't take too much math to see up here that I need three. I'm in trouble regardless of where else this is needed. So let's go down and look at another one here. Let's look at this carton. I have on order 500. I need 17, so I'm probably in. Let's see when it's coming in. Okay, it's coming in on June 11th. Well, I'm on June 20th, so I know I'm in trouble. So again, this is designed to show you all components, including those that are okay and short, because you have a preference of wanting to see everything and kind of micromanage this. We have another version of this that just shows you production order by production order. It just shows you the shortages. This report is designed to, well, this is more of an advanced report that we developed, that Tom developed for one of our customers, where they wanted to be able to look at shortages, but they wanted to know when it was coming in today or not. Okay, so we now have all these shortages. It's like, well, what do we do with them? How do we order? So about 3 or 4 years ago, we decided that we needed a solution to be able to order parts without the manual drudgery, tediousness of keying them in one order by one. So we created a purchase order generator. And for discussion purposes, I'm going to, I hit the wrong one. I'm going to make believe that I am Pete Bowers in the Cincinnati location, and I want to see all of the vendors that need replenishments. So let's take a look at this first one here, Cincinnati box. Okay, so in a normal fashion, I'd be typing this in, type, tab. But in this case, I have a rule in here that tells me it's calculated what the correct quantity is. So I'm going to say yes, yes, yes. I know down here this is wrong, that I have to order this in increments of 100. So I can change that. I can say yes here. And now I'm going to say create purchase order. And there is my purchase order. And this does accommodate the rules of order multiples. And this is as if I pressed F5 in Macola to create the next purchase order number. I can change any of this up here. I can even change the vendor that I'm going to order this from. If I decided at the last minute to get rid of this, I can get rid of this. Let's say I want to get rid of this. I can push this into Macola. When I hit save, I'm going to push this into Macola as an unreleased order, a released order, or a printed order. In other words, this kind of gets away from having to go back into Macola and deal with it. I can even change these phone numbers up here, which never got in there if I want to. So when I hit save, then what's going to happen is these items are going to go away, and I'm going to go down to the next vendor. So let's slow this process down, and let's talk about this a little bit more. This is simple reorder levels. Anything that's below the reorder level, we're going to order it. Hopefully we know what the lead time is. Hopefully we know what the calculated reorder level, all those kind of things. So these fields are all user defined that are here. And the idea being that at the beginning, this may not be correct, that you don't want to order this, or this is supposed to be ordered in increments of 1,000. Okay, so this is step number one. Step number two is that this is being driven by Macola's MRP. The next step is this is being driven by our dashboard MRP. And the last one is this is being driven by your shop floor control outside operations. So we have a customer, for example, that's metal stamping. Everything has to go out for cleaning. Everything has to go out for deburring. Everything has to go out for heat treating, sometimes anodizing, sometimes chroming, plating. So they use this to read the the shop floor outside operations, and they issue the purchase orders through here. So what I'm pointing out is we have a versatile, this box right here would say, okay, well, this is the mic rule, this is the shop floor rule, this is the outside operations rule, this is the MRP rule. So you basically have criteria, I think it's under settings. you have criteria for, these are SQL statements that would drive this. So you can, if you prefer to key them in manually, you can. But the idea here is we've given you a tool that makes this job much easier, and you can change the quantities. And for those of you who are using this, we are in the process of figuring out how. Like, I look here and I can see that my lead time isn't correct. I don't have the lead time on here. Let's say that the lead time is not correct. So what we're going to allow you to do is do a right click on the field and change the lead time and push that back into Macola. And this also supports contracts that you have with the vendors. But just right out of the box, this is showing your 3, 6, and 12-month usage, what your reorder level is, your min-max, the PO multiple. And you can see with my data here, none of this has been worked. So this isn't going to work right now because the critical fields were not keyed into Macola. Okay, so there's one more area. I promised to get everybody out in 50 minutes. There's one more area that I want to talk about, and for ordering, and that is our demand planner software. I'm not going to demonstrate this in detail, but what this is for, this is the demand planner software, and this is designed for people that have extremely long lead times. And I'll give you an example. It's in July, and I'm ordering today for November deliveries. So typically it's going to be overseas, on the water. Maybe there's a lead time in China, a lead time in Hong Kong, plus 8 weeks on the boat. And so what this is doing is it's looking at your forecast, and month by month by month, we don't have data here, but you can see it's going the current month, the next month, the next month, the next month. So it's telling you what you need to buy. And then the idea is that it's generating the purchase order using our PO generator. So I don't want to dwell too much into this today, but for those of you who have extremely long lead times, over the water, because this has 2 lead times. It has the manufacturing lead time and it has the on the water lead time. And so this might be helpful. There's only a few customers using this, but it's a lifesaver for, you can imagine that you're ordering today on July 26th, you're ordering for November deliveries. Okay, Bart, so again, we've discussed, just to kind of recap this, you know that we have some tremendous metrics that you can now take advantage of, including the gross demand. We have ABC classes. We have a cleanup process of open purchase orders, open customer orders, open shop orders. You know that you can right click on a production, any kind of order, and change the date. We've discussed the need for a written inventory policy. And we've talked about our shortages reports. We've talked about pinpointing, in the production side, pinpointing shortages, looking down, do I have it on order? How much do I have on order? And so on. We've introduced this concept of gross demand as being a new field that you have available if that's applicable to you. We've talked about the purchase order generator and then a little bit about the demand planner. And for those of you who are using the software now, you know that we have excellent, very responsive support desk and training. And I laugh about the retraining, but a lot of times people forget and they need another training class. We find that people don't take advantage of. I mean, they don't wear out their welcome by calling every day because they have a job to do, and the boss is not going to allow them to get on the phone with us every day. the boss will then start trying to figure out why they're on the phone and can't do it themselves. So we provide unlimited support. We have tremendous supply chain, MRP, inventory control knowledge among our team. So, so for those of you who are using the software, all of these reports you've seen today, almost all of them are available at no charge. We did come out last year with what we call our Pulse Dashboard catalog of custom reports. So for example, this is one of them, because this is linking two reports together. And for those of you who are new to the software or new to us, we would be happy to allow you to use the software on a trial basis at no cost for 20 days. And if you'd like to have a demo just for your team, we definitely can do that. And so I think that's about it. Bart, is there anything that I've forgotten to talk about? And any questions? And you can still send questions later. It doesn't have to be during this session.
No, the only other question was, is there a recording of the webinar available?
It will be, yep.
Okay.
Okay, so for those of you who are our customers, thanks very much. We have a lot of fun with this. This is, this journey, and we've gone down this together. For those of you who are new or just getting to know us, we have an excellent track record, and we'd like to, get you using the software for your better control of your supply chain. So, thanks everybody. Have a good rest of the week, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.